Integrity, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston, Integrity is ready for the event.
Administrator Isaacman, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call Integrity for a voice check.
Integrity, Jared Isaacman, comm check.
Administrator Isaacman, we've got you loud and clear up here.
I've got you loud and clear, and let's see if we can top that last PO event. That was pretty special. So we are going to spend the next 20 minutes doing Q&A from a number of questions that have been submitted, and we are going to start with one from me. You all have spent years preparing for this moment and imagining what it must be like when you look down at the moon, at the lunar surface. What has surprised you all that you did not anticipate?
Go ahead. Oh,
it's on.
Administrator, great to chat with you. Just something that just shocked me, because really using imagery and just the three-dimensionality of it, you know from your experience of seeing the Earth from space, how it just seems different. And you look out in depth of things, and when we were on the far side of the moon looking back at Earth, it's just so obvious you had this sphere out in front of you of the moon and this three-dimensional. You really felt like you weren't in a capsule. You'd been transported to the far side of the moon, and it really just bent your mind. It was an extraordinary human experience. I'm so grateful for it.
Integrity, Jared, anyone else want to answer that one?
You know, we had an amazing launch. The SLS is quite a powerful rocket, and got us into a 1,200 by, eventually a 100-mile orbit, and it clearly power and speed, and then we did our translunar injection, and we were going quite fast. And so with all of that speed, though, it still took us days to get here. And so the scope of all of the things to a 321-foot tall rocket was amazing. It just puts the power required to do this in perspective. But then even with all that power and to get to those velocities, it still took us days. And the breadth of the distance we had to cover, watching the distance from Earth count up and the distance from the moon count down was one of the most surprising things I've enjoyed.
Well, as I was trying to formulate an answer, at first I couldn't think of anything because there are so many things to choose from. I'll try to just narrow it down, but I'm going to go with something we did yesterday, a manual flight test objective, where we just basically got to sit at the vehicle. It was Jeremy and I this time, and just drive around using the rotational hand controller, basically just drive it with the stick. And how well it handled, how tight the control algorithms were, and watching it respond when we actually degraded it on purpose by going into 3 degrees of freedom control, by actually inhibiting some of the jets, which even though we have jet redundancy, of course, for each other in these complicated algorithms. So it was just amazing to be in a deep space spacecraft and just be flying it around by hand. The one other thing I'll say, how fast it has gone by. I'm not ready to go home. I can't believe that something this cramped of quarters can fly by and still be fun every single minute.
And I'll just close out with, I think just scale, Jared, is the thing that is just blowing my mind. You flew Polaris Dawn to some amazing apogee numbers, and on the International Space Station we're 250 nautical miles up, and that's the most beautiful view I think a human could ever experience. And we are dealing with numbers that are 250,000 miles, and every time Mission Control points this vehicle either at the moon or at Earth,
way, and it reminds me every day that humans have to go, we've got to explore, we got to go further to expand our knowledge, expand our horizons. And every time we take another step forward, it makes the world seem a little bit smaller and a little bit more manageable. And just putting these numbers in perspective, it is impossible as a human to look at these displays and comprehend them. But here we are, and NASA is doing this, an international team is doing this, and they're doing it very well.
Excellent words, integrity. So certainly a very wild insertion orbit. I can imagine the contrast between perigee and apogee, the scale of it all, the 3D, seeing the moon come alive, and then certainly manual control. Well, every Dragon crew for the last 5 years is very jealous on that. Okay, so we're going to questions here. This one, the Artemis II crew, inspire all of us, but what inspires you?
I think as you get older, your answer to that question changes a lot. Certainly when I was a young boy and a young man, just seeing an airplane flying overhead, to me, that really lit a fire in me. And then I think when you reach your middle age, it is interesting to watch leadership throughout the world kind of change the course of human. You can watch that unfold. And now that I'm just a little bit over 50, you'll be there soon. Now that I'm just a little bit over 50, I mean, it all ties back to just family, and you understand just how much the people that you surround yourself with, and that is really every night when you go to bed, that's really what you end up thinking. At least that's what I end up thinking.
Thank you. All right, so here's a question. It's a good one. So for the Artemis III crew, what is the advice you would pass along for the next astronauts that will go in Orion?
That's a great question, Jared. We've actually been thinking about the Artemis III crew since we were assigned as the Artemis II crew. It was the beginning of how we came up with how we wanted to fly this mission, how we wanted to buy down risk for the program, and values as a crew. And so, over the course of these 3 years, we've taken a lot of notes. So we've almost got a book to hand them. But I think a few practical things, just sitting here, we've been living for the past 6 days, how you pack is a huge impact to how you will live on the journey. And so things like food and your hygiene products, and then you know what's going on with our waste management system, the technology that we have, practicing that and being familiar with that and being prepared mentally. I used it on the space station, I used it at home in training, but I'll be honest, I wasn't really prepared to have to use it for over half the mission, and but we adapt and overcome, and so I can't wait to talk to that crew.
I'm glad you said it, or else I was. We definitely have to fix some of the plumbing. Okay, this question is from Merriam-Webster. So wordy one here. So you are going to be, well, you've already surpassed more than 250,000 miles from Earth, farther than any human has gone before. So what are some words that come to mind when you try to wrap your mind around this very unique experience?
I'll be honest with you, the main word, because superlatives just don't do it justice, is humility. We would never be here if it weren't for so many people that came before us, starting with Neil Armstrong, Katherine Johnson, Dorothy Vaughan, civil rights movement leaders, everyone who worked on this spacecraft. Before we got here in our 3 years of training, we went all over the country and even to our European and Canadian partners to see the people who have put their hands on this hardware, the millions of parts from every valve, to this entire thing, the people that put on harnesses every day to rig it up in the VAB. They all passed the record. We definitely didn't pass the record up here alone.
So this is actually very similar to the question the President of the United States asked just a brief bit ago. But during the quiet moments on your journey, when you were out of contact with everyone here on Earth, what were some of the thoughts that tended to occupy your mind most?
Yeah, as Victor said earlier, when we were on the far side of the moon and out of contact with planet Earth, we all knew it, and it was a milestone. We saw Earth disappear, the Earth set. But we were so busy with the science, and we have such faith in our vehicle integrity, such faith in mission control, that we were just at complete peace and just doing our job. And just trying to do a good job to collect as much science data as we could while we were on the far side of the moon, and we were just giddy in here, like of our lives.
He's being a bit humble, but as soon as we went out of comm with planet Earth, we did have maple cookies. As we just gathered together for about 30 seconds, each one of us had a maple cream cookie, and then right back into the science. But we had to take a moment to honor that time going behind Earth, and it was going behind the moon and out of touch with Earth, and that was a very surreal moment for this crew.
Copy that. Copy good maple cookies on the far side. And how has this journey changed? How has this journey already changed the way you see our home planet and humanity's future among the stars?
There's so many directions I think we could go with that, and I just, I think that there's, global, but I think real impact is local, and is to see the Earth as an entire thing and look at it, this system, and to see it all in once. But my daughters, and just the the things that we can impact directly, the people that I can touch, that I can speak to, hug, and show love and gratitude toward, is the thing that I think is going to change and last. And but you also talked about the future that we're going to have in the stars, and this mission, I think we swung for the fence and launched on our first try after learning a lot earlier this year. But I think it set the stage for us to go out and continue to swing for the fence hard in our Orion SLS and ground systems programs to go and get the next one teed up so that crew can knock it off out of the park. And so I have huge expectations for what's coming next.
Good words. Are you feeling homesick for Earth?
I will tell you, last in my eyes, I did start thinking about getting home. It's not a homesickness at all, but the first time probably in 3 years, I let my mind get past the moon and back towards home, and I had to catch myself right there. You're an operator just like we are, and that is the place to be when you're up here. We got to look one step ahead. What's next? What's our next burn? How are we setting up our trajectory to get home? And we are going to do that. We are locked in, and we are definitely excited for the second half of this mission. And we are on guard. We are first crew to fly this vehicle. We are ready for any contingency in any scenario, and we are going to stay locked in every second until we are back on that Navy ship and then home reunited with our families.
And copy that. Astronauts like being in space. That checks out. Okay, there's a lot of questions from the space photography community. How are the pictures going so far?
Well, we all love getting our hands on cameras and our eyes behind the lens here, because we're just trying to share the incredible things that we're seeing, and that's obviously the best way we can try to do that. I've been into night sky photography for a long time, and so a dream come true for me. I have thought specifically to that community, the time lapses I've been trying to get, those are a little tougher because we have a very dynamic vehicle. It's not like being on ISS where you can get the city lights below and the auroras and the spinning stars around the North Star. There's a lot going on. So, but what we got to matter is out of this world. When we viewed that eclipse, that was the one time we all said, we literally cannot capture this with a camera. Everything else, I think we've really put our hearts and minds into making sure we understand so that we can bring that home to everyone. But having to set the low light features for Earthshine on the moon while it's in eclipse, that was a new one. I had to dig deep in my book for that one.
And thanks for the iPhones. They've been working great.
Very glad to hear that. And there are a couple billion people back here on Earth that are extremely excited to look at the imagery you've captured up there. Okay, well, I want to thank you all, Integrity. So Reed, Victor, Christina, Jeremy, on behalf of NASA and space-loving people across the world, thank you for taking us with you to the moon. Thank you for your courage, all of your beautiful words that we've heard. You represent the absolute best of us. We are proud of you, and we look forward to welcoming you back safely to the good Earth very soon. Godspeed, and go Artemis II.
Thank you so much, Administrator. We are just proud to be a part of this team, doing our work every day, and we are supported by a huge world of humans, and we are just honored to be a part of that. Thank you.
We'll see you soon.
Integrity, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event. Thank you.
Thank you to all participants. Integrity, we are now resuming operational audio comm.